Hello again. Welcome to video 3. This is the last video in today's Learn-a-thon. Next Saturday we're gonna have another Learn-a-thon where we're talking about income streams. So definitely be on the lookout for more information and details around that. So in this third video, I am going to piggyback off of what we talked about in the second video. And we talked about being consistent and having good behavior. And we also talked about we briefly talked about having the income to be able to manage a high limit credit card. So just because you can qualify for one doesn't necessarily always mean that you should apply for one. It doesn't necessarily always mean that you're ready for one. You have to prepare yourself for one so that you can ensure that you're able to manage it month after month and you're not swallowed by this high limit credit card. So you have to be sure to have the income to be able to manage the utilization on these cards. So if you got a $10,000 card and you are trying to be at 10% to 30% utilization, are you going to be able, or do you have $3,000 to be able to manage that utilization? That's the thing that we have to think about. Also, what are you going to be doing with these high limit cards? Are you trying to get this high limit card so that you can just swipe, live the fancy life, do what you want to do? If that's the case, then you don't need a high limit card. Because again, if you don't have the income to manage the utilization on it, it's going to swallow you. It's going to damage your credit. It's going to mess you up. You're going to owe a whole lot. So let's be strategic in what we're using these cards for, which in my opinion, high limit cards should be used for high price things that could help your business grow or could help you grow. You want to use these things to grow your wealth portfolio. You want to use these high limit cards to position you to grow your wealth portfolio. But the thing is, when purchasing something with a high limit card, or when purchasing a high ticket item with a high limit card, whether it be a liability or an asset, whether it's a liability or an asset, let me say this. If it's an asset, if you are using your high limit card to purchase high ticket items that are assets, the thing you got to watch out for is, are you going to make a return on that by the next statement date? And if not, if you're not going to make a return on that to where you can pay that utilization down, do you have the money? Do you have the income? Do you have the leverage? If not, then now isn't the time to be trying to get a high limit card. Now is the time to try to boost your income streams. And if I'm talking to you right now, then you definitely want to tune in for next week's Learn-a-thon. Because if you're in that boat, you want to focus on increasing your income. Because if you don't have the income to manage the utilization on it, what's going to happen is you won't be able to. If you're being a little wise about things, you won't be able to use the card the way you need to use it. You'll be trapped in low utilization. And what I mean by that, let's say you have a $20,000 card, but you don't really have the leverage or the income to manage the utilization on it. So every month you're spending about $2,000 on it or so, $1,000 on it. You're at like 1%, 2%, 3% utilization. Some people are like, "Whoa, that's low utilization. That's great." Yeah, it is great. But if your score is in the high 600s, mid 600s, low 700s or so, and you need to get to a point where you gotta boost your score more, you're going to have to scale your utilization down. You're going to have to go from 30 to 20 or 25 to 18. But at some point, when your score gets stagnant, in order to move your score along, you're going to have to scale your utilization down. And if you're at 1%, 2%, 3% utilization, it's going to be very difficult to scale your utilization down. People in the 800s, in the high 700s, don't necessarily have to worry about this. But people that still have some room to grow and that still have some work to do, you don't want to trap yourself in low utilization because you're not going to be able to scale down when you need to. So those are the things that you want to think about. So if your income isn't high enough, one thing that you can do is you can pay depending on what your limit is though. Depending on what your limit is and depending on how much your monthly expenses are, one thing that you can do is you can pay your bills, pay your living expenses, pay your bills with that credit card to keep the utilization at a decent rate. See, that's safer than other methods because at least you know you gotta pay your bills. And this only works if you're always current on your bills, if you're always paying your bills on time. If you're having a hard time and struggling to keep up with your bills, then don't try this. Don't use your credit card to do this. But if you're always on time with your bills and you don't have no problem paying them, then paying your bills and your living expenses with your credit card could work in order to keep that utilization at bay. But other than that, you will honestly need to increase your income, and you will honestly need to increase the asset acquisition opportunities that you have. And to kind of wrap up, another way that you can position yourself for high limit credit cards, which this is something a lot of people do. This is somewhat a shortcut, but if you know me, y'all know I don't really care too much for shortcuts, but hey, we'll talk about it a bit. And that is purchasing trade lines. But I'd be careful with that. I would be very careful with purchasing trade lines. That's a whole nother video for a whole nother day. But just real quick on trade lines, once you qualify for that high limit card, once you buy that trade line and they leave it up there for however long they're gonna leave it up there, and then once you're able to get that high limit card using that trade line, you got to be careful because some companies will do soft checks, periodically do soft checks to ensure that you're still able to manage and handle that card. And if they do a soft check and they don't see that card up there, that trade line up there, then you can be in trouble. So you want to look out for things like that and be careful with things like that. So trade lines are okay, it's cool, but be careful. All right, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this Learn-a-thon. It was fun recording these videos for you guys. I will see you guys next week where we're going to be talking about income streams. If you have any questions about anything that I've discussed in these past 3 videos, you can feel free to reach out to me on social media, SelfXWealth. I'm SelfXWealth on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. You can always email me at selfxwealth@gmail.com to ask any questions that you may have. And I look forward to talking to some of you guys, dialoguing with some of you guys, answering some of you guys' questions. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great evening. Bye.